Jinu Joseph, editor of Modern Plastics TV and CAN 24/7 TV. Today I am going to introduce a company which is in India for 3 generations. Normally people talk about we are in the industry for 2 decades, 1 decade or 8 decades. We are talking about this business is handled by the 3rd generation who knows the industry, and the inception of this company was in the time of inception of Indian plastic industry in approximately 60 years ago or 65 years ago. And today I am going to introduce the youngest entrepreneur of engineering plastic material trading or plastic material trading, and they have offices in across different part of the world, including Mumbai. We are going to introduce Mr. Kuntal Sanghavi, Managing Director of ACL India, and he is the youngest and the 3rd generation of ACL India. This business was started by his grandfather, then it is now handled by his father and Kuntal together. They are focusing more on automotive sector. I think we will talk more about these things in the interview. Mr. Kuntal Sanghavi, thank you so much for your valuable time. We welcome you to Modern Plastics TV.
Thank you.
Sir, ACL seems to be unstoppable at the moment. How do you explain to the Indian industry?
Well, Gino, firstly, thank you for coming here and visiting ACL Mumbai office. Of course, as you rightly mentioned, that the growth rate in ACL have been very consistent, and the growth rate have been more than what we have predicted. But I think the big credit in reality goes to the Indian plastic industry, the Indian economy. Actually, the Indian economy is unstoppable, if I have to put it this way. And we are blessed to witness this transformation or transition where the word potential superpower is eventually turning out to be the real superpower which is associated with India. Because in the last 20-30 years, we have been talking about India being a potential financial superpower, potential military power, and somehow that never converted into reality. But so we are blessed in that era to see this transition where we will see the potential word eventually turning into reality.
How do you see the Indian plastic industry is shaping up today?
Well, if I have to put it in one line, the Indian plastic industry is at the launching pad stage, and that explains it all. That there is so much potential left, and the journey has just begun. If you look over the years, the Indian plastic industry and plastic as a product have created so many substitutions in all the major industries. If you compare the automotive components which were made 20 years ago, like dashboards, the bumpers, the headlamp, the tail lamp, you would see that currently 80% of almost all the components are converted into plastics, which were earlier metals and glasses. So this is a big achievement for the entire polymer industry, that the speed at which the substitution is taking place, that's where the growth is taking place.
Also the home appliance industry, how do you see it?
Yeah, if you discard the automotive and just look at the furniture industry, home appliance industry, medical industry, aviation industry, if you see, none of this industry can actually survive without plastic. There was a big transformation in last 20 years and now in all the major industry which I just stated. So if I have to put it again in this way, that plastic is here to stay and plastic is here to grow.
You said plastic is here to stay and grow. Today there are so many plastic ban happening, and there are so much talk on plastics and environment. What is your view on this?
See, Gino, I think that plastic have become the daily part of our lives, which we just cannot ignore. When it comes to environmental, I would say that plastic have been successfully replacing wood in lot of applications like textile pickers, were earlier made of wood and leather. Even the police stick, which we all know were made out of wood and now substituted by polycarbonate. So when I see that there have been so many applications where plastic have been a miraculous polymer, the wonder created by mankind to help cut down less trees and in turn be a more efficient product in terms of environmental. Now in terms of the plastic ban, what I would like to highlight is that it is a sheer case of implementing plastic segregation system. Until we do that, we cannot be blaming the polymer.
Automotive sector is growing, and there are so many changes happening in automotive sector. And what I saw recently is the focus of the material manufacturing companies as well as the trading companies has changed. How do you see, or ACL focusing on automotive industry, and how do you see the growth, and explain something to our viewers?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Gino, that we are highly betting on the Indian automotive industries and we see big growth opportunities here. And most important, we do understand the precise requirement of automotive sector and we feel that ACL can fill that vacuum and shortcomings in the current raw material supply chain which automotive needs. I think we can do a good job there.
You spoke about a vacuum in the material industry. How do you fill this vacuum, and how can you fill the gap of this current situation?
I think firstly, to serve the automotive industry effectively, we have created a very good matrix, and that matrix is basically a synergy where we as a supplier, automotive car maker, and their molders are covered on a same page. And I strongly believe if this synergy is not efficient, then the business model to cater the automotive industry cannot be scalable. Now, secondly, what we are doing mainly is working very closely with automotive R&D department, and we supply them excellent technical services for product substitution, for cost effective polymers. So what does this do is this helps the automotive company to choose the right grade, the right polymer, the right material at very early stage of their designing, like what we say is from the concept to commercialization. So I think our endeavor to jointly associate with automotive companies at early stage help them to select the correct material before it's commercialized. And most importantly, it helped them to frame the cost structure also at the very initial phase of the project.
How do you handle commercials with auto sector, as this part I believe is most challenging for most raw material suppliers, isn't it?
Well, not really, Gino. That there is a big myth going on that the commercials are the most difficult part to as a raw material supplier when it comes to supplying to automotive industry. But to be very honest, we have seen the big shift in the mindset of the automotive purchase departments, and the purchase patterns have changed. Earlier, it used to be a mental block that payment term dominated the entire commercial cycles. Now, automotive customers think much advanced and strike a perfect balance between all the critical areas, which includes the quality, price, payment term, and most important is the timely regular supplies. we see a lot of major automotive customer even taking advantage of ACL aggressive cash discounts to maintain their margins, because automotive, of course the size is big, but we do understand that how critical and how paper thin margins is this sector playing on. So we do help them by giving very aggressive cash discount, and molders, especially the molding companies, they really admire this move and take advantage of it. So this is what I mean by the change in mindset, because this never used to be the case 5 years ago.
What do you think? ACL will have highest market share to supply of engineering plastics raw material in automotive sector in India by 2020?
Well, I think it's going to be much before that, to be very honest. That the pace at which we are penetrating into automotive market, I think very soon will be the largest supply of engineering plastic to automotive sector. But to be very honest, we never strive to run this market share rat race. It's basically in our family upbringing and the value system that are infused that always make sure that ACL's business ultimate motive is always to serve the larger part of society and not just mere commercials like market share, top line and bottom line, etc. One should know this secret very well, that one can achieve growth by intelligence, street smart approach, accurate business sense, etc. etc. But no business can have sustainability over the years and years if the motive of the business is limited to only monetary gains and losses. One's business should serve society, humanity, and the nation at large.
It is very impressive approach towards business. As you said, we should serve society, humanity and nation. But now I would like to ask you, which raw material does ACL currently supply to the Indian plastic industry? And what are the use or which industry it serves?
Well, currently ACL have two major polymer group. One is the transparent polymer group, one is the molding polymer group, what we said. And in the transparent polymer group, I think ACL is very strong, and I believe we have a highest market share there. Mainly our products include polycarbonate, PMMA, SMMA, SBC, SAN, polystyrene. And now ACL is really catching up in leaps and bounds with the molding polymer group, which includes ABS, UHMWPE, nylon, and POM.
Apart from automotive, which other industry ACL targets majorly?
I think apart from automotive, home appliance sector, I think it has to be home appliance sector, because we feel that this sector will surprise the global plastic industry with its exponential growth rate and polymer consumption in India.
What makes you think the home appliances will be a game changer?
I think, Jinu, there are multiple factors which will trigger the growth rate in home appliance industry much beyond that anybody is anticipating right now. I think if you see in recent past activities, the US-China trade war is fueling the migration of the molding business to India. Also, the recent import tariff, which have changed since last 10 days, we saw that lot of import duty have been doubled in all the major home appliance components like washing machine, refrigerator, music system, air condition, etc. I think this will motivate make in India manufacturing journey. And also thirdly, the recent exchange rate is not favorable for imports from China. So that will again motivate the home appliance maker to make the components here in India themselves. And the most important part is the 1 billion population of India, which is now turning out to be the major consumer market for the home appliance maker. This is where I think the Make in India and Sell in India will be a big incentive for the home appliance makers.
Wow, Mr. Kuntal, we got a new tagline: Make in India, Sell in India. You are talking about replacing the raw material or substitution of the raw material and cost saving. How auto industry benefit by this?
I think the major role ACL plays in product substitution for automotive industry is mainly by suggesting the right polymer for the right application based on the property which the polymer possess.
The most difficult problem or disease in automotive industry is haziness on the headlamps. How do you see, and how can you give a replacement or a suggestion for the automotive industry?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier that basically headlamp or sun visor or the speedometer of two wheeler, they're exposed to sunlight almost throughout the day. So weatherability property is the most critical property when you come to choose the transparent polymer which is going to be exposed to the sunshine throughout the day. And we were surprised that not much importance is given to the weatherability part of the polymer. It's mainly we see in Indian market the more stress or the more important goes to only and only impact, which is not true because weatherability also comes under the durability family. What you are looking for, impact is not the only factor. So now the meter cover application, what I see is the speedometer in two wheeler, 100% replaced by PMMA, which was earlier used to be different transparent resin, and main reason is the outdoor sunshine weatherability. Coming to the headlamp, now even in headlamp we had limitation to use PMMA because of the HDT, but now in recent automotive development, what we are seeing, the headlamps are made out of LED lights, not the traditional halogen. So the LED light emits much less heat. So we don't have to go to 120 HDT, and we have developed a high impact and high heat PMMA to cater this industry and to solve their current problem of the haziness over the years.
How do you see in home appliances the food grade material used, and how do you connect these things to the appliance manufacturers?
Yeah, I think that's a very critical question because when you say food grade, so that means the plastic in contact with the food articles on a day-to-day basis, and that is something which is related to healthcare too. And on behalf of plastic industry, the supplier, the user, and the consumer, all three have to be aware of which polymer are they using for what kind of food application. So when we say food contact, because if we see recently, lot of countries have actually banned BPA based polymers, and which because in lot of health magazines and the health awareness articles we saw that BPA can lead to cancer, and that's why the plastic industry evolved and made better polymers which are BPA free and which are not toxic, and so the consumer can safely use such polymer into their day-to-day food contact. So one of the polymer which we are targeting aggressively specifically to the food industry, the food grade, is called SMMA. So SMMA in other parts of the world it is also called MS resin. So MS resin is BPA free polymer, and it has the very high transparency, very high scratch resistance, because we have to consider it that the home appliances are being washed every day by the detergent and the scrubs. So it needs a good chemical resistance as well as a good scratch resistance. So considering all this property, we have introduced aggressively SMMA into the home appliance and food contact industry.
What I learned about ACL is you are into multiple industry, and I found that you are also supplying to electrical and lighting industry. Could you elaborate something more on this?
Yeah, surely, Jinu. Of course, electrical and lighting industry is something which we are chasing and penetrating very aggressively, especially because we see a scope of high impact ABS, high gloss ABS being can be penetrated in place of expensive polymers which are currently being used. And also we are going to set up a compounding plant here in India mainly to cater the electric switch market for their whites and blacks and the reds. So the local compounding plant is going to help us to cater the small batches of individual customers who have different requirement of the pre-colored ABS and polycarbonate. For the lighting industry, of course, again, the same compounding plant is going to compound the diffuser grade, which will mainly cater to the LED lighting industry. And the polymer which we chose for the LED lighting cover is polycarbonate and PMMA. So PMMA again, because the luminance ratio is much higher, it's the most transparent plastic in the transparent polymer family. And polycarbonate we use because whenever we need high HDT, that's where the polycarbonate comes into picture. So LED market, yeah, we are very aggressively pushing our these two raw material, and with the compounding plant in place, it's going to help us to serve this industry more efficiently.
You are talking about expansion, compounding plant and expansion. Could you please give some more details like when it is planned to expected to start a compounding plant, and what are the investment you are planning to do, and how it is going to benefit for the Indian plastic industry?
I think the compounding plant which I mentioned, which will be mainly doing the pre-color ABS, pre-color PMMA and pre-color PC. That's our first phase to start commercializing this, and the date which we have shortlisted is the first half of 2019, where we will see the plant up and running. And in the second phase, we are going to introduce nylons and POM into our production unit, and that would phase out eventually by the year end of 2019. The total project cost what we have factored is coming up to around 400 to 500 crores for phase 1 and phase 2 together, and that will also help us to move ahead with the capital markets, because ACL is planning to enter into capital markets in BSE and NSE, both the stock exchanges. So we are very hopeful to connect all the dots together at the same time.
Mr. Kuntal, you are truly inspirational and great asset to the Indian plastic industry. Thank you so much for being with us. Have a wonderful time.